episode of Mr. Badger Talks to Scum, and I'm here with a good friend of mine, Lukeman. How are you, Lukeman?
What up, Mr. Badger? Good evening.
Yeah, was that your fighter pilot helmet there?
Yeah, I wear these to the supermarket. People think I'm crazy.
Is there a reason why you've decided to don your fighter pilot outfit?
No, before at the beginning of lockdown, my headphones broke, and I'm cheap, and I'm not going anywhere. So I was like, this will do for all usage. Multi-purpose. I don't care how inappropriate they are. I'm wearing them.
Exactly. Yeah. Even if technically we don't even need earphones for this, but never mind.
I didn't know. I'm a novice.
We're here today to talk about a very, very sensitive subject, aren't we, Lukeman?
Indeed we are, Mr. Badger.
And it is BLM, if that is correct.
Indeed.
So Blue Lives Matter, the thing going on about New York police officers have been shot dead. Why is it blown up so much?
I see. Oh, that's an interesting spin on it. Yeah. So the Black Lives Matter situation that erupted in America.
Black.
Yeah, with black people in America, Mr. Badger, and a bit.
What's happened?
About I think it was a month or so ago, there was a police brutality killing. A guy named George Floyd. He was killed by the police, and then that triggered some protests and some uproar internationally about that. There've been these sort of protests before for over decades, and they're back.
Didn't George Floyd make some sort of a grill for your kitchen?
I think you're thinking of George Foreman, Mr. Badger.
Oh, sorry. I get confused because they...
You cheeky...
So
I've always put in a Badger coat.
There's been an incident, and off the back of this, it was police brutality, which has ended up in a death of a black man.
Yeah, he was killed. One of the police officers had a knee on his neck for 9 minutes, and that was pretty fucked up.
9 minutes.
It was 8 minutes and 46 seconds. As Dave Chappelle's new special was titled after it.
Ah, so it's like we're already uncovering some lies. All of these people going out saying 9 minutes. It wasn't. It was only 8:47. It's fine.
Yeah, so that's created an international shockwave. It's affected different things from art to sports to just generally the way people are interacting with people. Yeah. It's interesting, like over the last, say, I'm 31, and when I got older, I thought that sort of racial divisions were sort of improving in community structure, and now things seem more divided than ever, and that's crazy. Like, I want people to come together and, and to laugh and to...
I'd like to come together if that's okay.
I've done my part. I once had sex with a Jewish girl and a Muslim girl in the same day.
Yeah? Was your mum asleep?
Middle East points.
Yeah. Oh dear. But this is the only recorded incidence of the police brutality against black people, I take it.
Oh, no, of course not. This is historical. It's gone on for a long time, and one of the most notable incidents was Rodney King back in 1992, which triggered the LA riots, which lasted several days.
Rodney King from Only Fools and Horses?
No, it's a different guy, Mr. Badger.
Oh, carry on.
Yeah, and that triggered an uproar then, and there were riots, and it seems like that this is an issue that never seems to go away, and just depending on how frequently it happens or the brutality of the incident is, how people tend to react. But the size of the reaction that I've seen this time is something maybe unprecedented that I wouldn't have seen in decades. Who knows? Like, I don't know how many people were protesting in civil rights things back in the day in the 1960s. But then, obviously, with change or the people are trying to make, obviously, other tensions are arising from other things. And when discussing these things, especially online, I think people sometimes forget that they're talking to another human being. So
Yeah.
people, as soon as someone says something you don't like, Mr. Badger, people will take the least charitable interpretation that, like, hello can be read as he wants to kill my family. But it's not always like that. And I
Well,
think
I
as
suppose
people
it
take,
depends on if they're black.
yeah, you might, yeah. Oh, you cheeky bastard.
I can say these things because I am both black and white.
You certainly are, like me.
Yeah, exactly. We're brethren.
The brethren.
Yeah. Only I haven't got any hair because it burnt off. So you've got a lovely set of locks there, if you don't mind me saying, Lukeman.
Well, recently on the internet, I was just called pube head. I, I'm actually tried a miracle shampoo at the moment to try and get my hair back. My hair's thinning, and my friends are always taking the piss. And I was happy to just go bald, shave it to zero, get very muscular, and wear suits and get a kingpin look sort of going on. But my cousin has talked me into buying some miracle shampoo off the internet, which may or may not be for horses. It is called Male and Tail and Mane.
If it might be for horses, try rubbing some on your dick.
I'm already packing.
Yeah. Well, put it on your balls then. Just have one big ball.
Oh, I've had big balls before, but from a horrible medical operation. I once had a torsion. Do you know what a torsion is, Mr. Badger?
It's where they twist inside the sack.
Yes, I had twisted testicles, and a surgeon had to cut up into my scrotum and twist my testicles back round and sew them in place.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
And
We had a friend like that when I was a little boy, and we called him Rubik's Bollocks. That's a genuine story. Rubik's Bollocks. If you're out there, Rubik's, hello. So, so talking of testicles, the Black Lives Matter movement, was that originated this year then, or is there a history to Blum?
No, so I believe it started maybe sometime around between 2012, 2014, maybe. I knew it was during the Obama administration. There was some incidences of black guys getting killed with Trayvon Martin and Mike Brown. I believe there was Ferguson riots and Baltimore riots and things of that nature. So there has been civil unrest that has been going on for a while. And as well as the actual incidences themselves, which everyone will agree are horrible and shouldn't happen, and things need to be put in place to stop them. Like I heard something that's come out of this in some of the cities in America. They've created a new law where if a policeman is killing or beating a citizen to death, another policeman has to now stop in and intervene if he sees him, or that is a crime. And my friends were like, "That should have been a crime before."
Exactly. Yeah. But surely in that then, it's shown that it's not really a racial matter, it's more of a policing matter if they don't think that beating somebody to death is a crime.
Mm-hmm. And I think the way that the discussions are handled as well with these things, so because with some people it's a minefield and it's too sensitive, but then other people they've all gone straight away, and there is a nice middle ground where people can come and come to a table and have discussions to try and make decisions to improve things. And I feel that the media is encouraging divisiveness between communities and not just races, genders, sexuality, every type of group of people there are in society. The media or the politicians will be telling you this other group hates you. Don't trust them. They have the worst intentions for you. Only listen to us. But to me, that doesn't sound like someone you should trust the people who will tell you these things. And I think people need to eat all things, no matter whether it's politics or something gender or sex or race related, as well as just it's good to feel passionate. And also, I'm really glad that even that some people are awakening to certain things, as well as race stuff, just in terms of the way the media and the politicians would like to manipulate your views on different things and say everyone has to believe or say certain things, and if you don't follow this line to the T, we will fucking behead you socially, and we will ruin your life and any future prospects you have. And that's like, whoa, buddy.
It doesn't just seem to be the future. It seems to be anything you may or may not have done in the past can be used against you as well.
That is very true. And I've lived a pretty fucking raw life, Mr. Badger, prior to comedy. And I've said so much crazy shit in my time. I didn't know I was going to try and become a comedian fucking 10 years later. And a lot of people don't. That's what people don't take into consideration. And or even if you are, so, like sometimes with jokes, I'll take it to comedy. Like over here, certain things have been removed from television, comedic scenes, and people are questioning things in comedy retrospectively. And I think what people don't see is you can't expect all art to hold, or anything from the past to hold up to the morality of today, because you'll only be able to watch things or read things or look at art from the last 10 to 15 years, and then the goalposts of what is moral or good or bad will move again, and then you'll have to burn all that stuff down.
Yeah, which it's not to be honest, there's quite a few things from my past that I wish were burnt and nobody could see again. But it is a dangerous precedent, I think, if you're judging people based on sort of humour from the past, especially when a lot of it as well. It's so reactionary. They don't take the entire thing into account. They just take a snapshot and say that's horrible, that's homophobic, that's racist, that's this, that's that.
Or sometimes, even with the joke, sometimes a joke is like a reverse joke. So what I'm saying is really the opposite of what I mean. So I might say something that is quite immoral in a joke to make an ironic point and be satirical. But some people who take everything literal think, this man is just saying really mean things that he wishes to happen to people on stage. And I'm like, no, I'm giving you a fictional premise to discuss this concept. And you try and work some people through that. But it's not just the same with comedy. It's all pieces of art. Some people take music wrong. Some people take films wrong. But with comedy, we are granted, I wouldn't say less poetic license, but the general public, I think, because people don't tend to respect comedy as much as comedians. If a comedian does something bad or says something, fuck him, this person's evil, destroy them straight away. And Jim Norton, who's a wicked comedian, you know Jim Norton?
Yes, I know Jim Norton.
Off the Opie and Anthony show. Jim Norton said something great about this sort of stuff, and he was like, people don't grant comedians this sort of faith. It is art. And he said he just watched the Stephen King film, It, and in the first 10 minutes, a child is ripped into a drain and ripped to pieces and massacred to death, and people were cheering. He said if It was a comedy, people would lose their fucking minds and burn down the cinema.
Well, to be fair, I think if I was hiding in that grid, a lot worse things would have happened to that kid. So.
Michael Jackson Thriller is staying in my car. I don't know what happened with all that, but
yeah, it's good music, isn't it? Good music to. So we're gonna.
I don't know about that, Mr. Badger. That's your line of work.
We're going to have a short break. We all right to come back in about 10 minutes for part 2?
Yeah.
Right, we'll see you in part 2 then. So we're here for part 2 of Mr. Badger Talks to Utter Scum. And I'm back again with Lukeman. How are you, Lukeman?
I'm good, Mr. Badger. Nice to be back.
What are you smoking there?
Bit of the herb.
Herb, like oregano.
The devil's lettuce. Marijuana.
Marijuana? Do you know what that does to your brain? It can make you a seriously mentally disturbed person. And I tell you what, I'd never touch drugs in my life. Yeah, clean living. So,
Now, I think for some people it keeps them sane. Or I'm a fucked up guy. Levels me out.
Yeah. Well done for contradicting yourself in about 5 seconds. uh, so we were talking about not just the Black Lives Matters movement, but racism in general. And I understand you've had a few incidences happen to yourself, have you?
Yeah, and racism changes over time. Like I remember, say, about 15 years ago when I was a teenager, even though things are quite polarized at the moment and people think things are really racist at the moment, I was like, there's a story from about 2003 that happened here in Birmingham. I couldn't even imagine this happening now. And the Combat 18 and the National Front, do you know what those are, Mr. Badger?
The A team?
Not the A team. Combat 18, I think they were like a sort of racist protest group.
Is there a combat under 16s?
I don't know. They probably got a junior league, like the Hitler Youth. Probably got their own league.
I might have to look into this. Racist children. Carry on.
Indeed. Well, they came down our school. Like, so I went to a school in Birmingham that was very ethnically diverse. I got friends of all races, black, white, Asian. Obviously, I'm mixed race myself. Most of the homies back in my crew in that time were black. We all went to the school. And we left school one day, and there was about 50 white dudes with skinheads marching towards us with dogs and pit bulls and signs. And I was absolutely fucking terrified, Mr. Badger.
Yeah.
But I was squinting because I could see a sign in the distance and I was trying to read it. I was a little bit high and it was said, "Go home." What? We are trying to go home and you were stopping us with this racist march.
Perhaps they were an escort team. Perhaps they were just like, we are here to take you home safely.
I turned around and my friends had already started running without telling me and they got a head start. So if one of us got caught getting a beating, it was me and they could gain some distance because I was fat at the time.
Oh dear.
I made it a walk.
That's not only racism, that's also body shaming.
Indeed. Well, I was fat and I was just fat, not fat enough to get away, so it was all right. But then, so I made it to the bus, and then the next day we went to school, and I was thinking that if this happened now, this might be, a national and international news story on social media. Back in 2003, there was none of that. They brought me and the other black lads all into the assembly hall. The head teacher, a white lady, I've forgotten her name at the moment, but she said, "I've heard about what happened last night. You guys are going to have to watch out when you walk home. I suggest you walk in packs. Maybe form like or something. I don't know. All right. Be safe." Fucking walked off. Best of luck.
Fucking hell. Yeah, lovely. So, would you definitely say that racism was worse when you were younger?
I think the sort of explicitness of that sort of story and me and my friends at the time, we were just like, we just want to go home and wank and play Grand Theft Auto. Please don't kill us, crazy white people. It didn't change my perceptions of all white people. I didn't think all white people were going to try and murder me. This was a specific segment of the city, that was, or I suppose in a lot of cities that are like this, and I imagine that education and other things played a factor into these ignorant views. Do you know what I mean? So, but me and my friends were just like, "Yo, we'll get strong, we'll get tough, we'll fuck those dudes up." But nothing ever really came of it. I think maybe the law tightened up on that shit about like race-hating protests of children outside of schools. I don't really know.
Have you ever met a racist non-white person?
Oh, of course. There's racism from every type of community and stereotypes, or even within races themselves. So races themselves might have sort of class levels with their own race. If you look over to India, they've got the caste system, or different parts of over there, and neighboring countries that border with them, they may have small cultural differences that can cause big divides. So yeah, I think I think in the debate recently, I think that's been forgotten, and I think it's that sometimes the narrative is that only a certain type of people are racist, but then we know that everybody's got it. And I was like, you know what? You know what's the funniest shit in the world, Mr. Badger? Go and sit with a group of old people of any race when they're by themselves, and you will hear the most hilarious old racist tales, and like you think, oh, they're not allowed to talk like that anymore. It's like, do you think your granddad at 80 years old is going to change? You think he's going to? You think this man's going to? So he's going to change? And so then sometimes I think, as I said earlier in the podcast, people trying to measure up things that of morals of today with the past. Like, obviously, those people coming to protest the children at the school was racist in 2003. It's still racist now. That was racist 50 years ago. That's one of those things where there's no room for interpretation as to whether that was racist or not. Do you know what I mean? Like, they had a sign, Mr. Badger. They had a clear. So there's several signs.
They had literal signs that were racist.
There are literal signs that were racist. And then I think sometimes social movements, which may be good causes, sometimes they can be hijacked. And I think sometimes, like, let's say, SJW guys, maybe of the white persuasion, of social justice warriors, I'm sure people watching know what that means. Those guys tend to be at the front of any cause, steering the ship and pouring petrol onto every situation and inflaming things and giving the least charitable interpretation. Yeah, this person definitely hates you. You should block them. You should not speak to them. You should wish death upon their whole family over a small misinterpretation of a joke on the internet. And it's hard to fucking tell a joke through text as well. But then even sometimes, let's say if someone has said one thing, because here's the thing that I'm thinking about, which might be part of my new comedy half an hour, which I might be writing, and it goes to Bob Marley and the song Redemption song. The Bob Marley song Redemption, he talks about a slave and he talks about a pirate, and they both live lives of hardship, and they're both seeking redemption from their pain and their struggle and to try and live a better life. While someone who's been a slave and has always been, treated badly, like, obviously they do deserve their redemption. But let's say someone does something bad or commits a crime or says something immoral or whatever. How long are they banned from society? Do you want these people to just go and die because they've said one thing once on the internet? They shouldn't be able to eat. They shouldn't be able to work. No one should ever interact with them socially again. How people think that's going to make, communities build and bond, I think that's a terrible idea. And I think that people should be trying to find commonalities between each other and things that they can bond over, rather than the most divisive thing at all times. If we're going to fucking argue about race, let's talk about football. If we're going to argue about gender, let's talk about pussy.
Well, bringing that up, it's called cancel culture nowadays, isn't it? And a lot of what I've noticed is there's people out there saying that, oh, it's impossible to cancel somebody. This is just somebody who's just not good enough at, say, comedy anymore. Whilst at the same time telling all of their friends, do not listen to this person, unfollow them, block them, which is cancelling.
And also, these sort of people who always hold the line of the dogma and they repeat it like they believe it, like they're fucking Scientology. Fucking people, Mr. Badger, they're Scientologists. Like, I've seen people say things like, you can't believe this, or you may even show them hypocrisies within their own logic. I've shown people screenshots of, you have said this and this on the same topic. You cannot possibly think both of these things. This is a logical paradox. And they say, fuck you, you piece of shit, you hateful piece of shit, come off my internet. I'm like, dude, bruh.
Can I just fathom a guess as well, though? Are these people that are entirely virtuous and, they want the world to know how lovely they are they normally middle-class white gentlemen?
For the most part, yes. And they tend to be sort of sycophants. Like, I can tell these guys get up in the morning, breathe in this shit. And if you think something that they don't agree with they want to come for you. And it's not even that like they don't want you to be prejudiced towards anyone. So prejudice is when you enact your racism or whatever you have against someone, you can enact that on them by using, if you have some sort of power where you can impede them socially or things of that nature. But if someone has a thought that's considered, you know, wrong, whether that be against a race, a gender, a sexuality, a religious ideology, anything or whatever, if this person isn't doing anything to you and they're just sort of within their own bubble living, and they're not even being sort of deflammatory towards you or whatever, the fact that people feel they need to come and crush people for that nowadays, and most of these people who I see doing this, they're men who are sort of, they would look at the floor and, you know, murmur when they sort of see a man in person. And there's the phrase keyboard warrior that's come about because I've had my fair share of arguments on the internet, and people have said to me, Luke, you're a keyboard warrior. I said, well, if I actually came and gave you a fucking kicking, they wouldn't like that in comedy. So I've got to keep it to a keyboard warrior, and you should be grateful that I'm being a keyboard warrior for the moment.
What if you beat them over the head with a keyboard? How do you stand with that?
I don't know. Maybe if I get enough juice in comedy, where I can afford to fucking pay off the lawsuits of a few ass whoopings.
Yeah.
But so a few funny race related stories that I was thinking of. So I've got two that are police related. One of them, when I was younger, me and my friend, as a black dude, were going to a party, and it was an FHM party. Remember FHM magazine? Like, you used to have magazines with tits in back in the day before tits became like illegal in magazines or something. We were going there, and we got pulled over and searched for about maybe 17 or 18 at the time. And my friend had a few £100 on him, and they were asking him what it was for. But my friend, it wasn't illicit money. My friend worked, but just for he had no reason why he had to tell them, like, why do you have £200? Like, well, mate, I've got a job, I work, I'm allowed to have £200. We're going shopping, we're going out. But he didn't feel the need to tell them that, and he was like, so they started radioing in, like, has he done anything else? And then my friend was talking to me, and he was like, they're taking the piss. And they were like, he's swearing, jumped on him, smashed him into a fence and started whooping his ass. And they were like, he was swearing like in public, a public disturbance. And they were whooping my friend's ass. And there was several of them, and they were quite big. And I tried to calm one of them down. I put my hand on his arm like a coward. And I was like, can you calm down? He's going peacefully. The cop turned around and he punched me straight in the solar plexus, in the bottom of my rib cage, and he dropped me, and I hit the floor, and I was breathing heavy, and I got up, and I sort of wanted to get up and go for it, but they would have taken me in the van and Rodney King the fuck out of me. My mate was already taking a beating right there, and I was seeing his beating. I was like, ooh, do I want more of a beating? And I was, and I thought, I was like, So they started taking him towards the van, and I didn't have credit on my phone at the time because I was a broadcast teenager, and they hadn't put my friend in cuffs yet, and he tried to throw me his phone. He said, phone my dad to get him to come and get me out of the police station. They batted the phone out of the air. They said, no, that phone could be evidence. Took him towards the van. I've gone to go towards his parents' house, and he phones me, and he's free. And I said, what happened? Did they let you go? And he said, no, they took off the cuffs to search me, and I kicked the policeman in the face, and I've run off and escaped, and I'm hiding in the bushes at the hospital. And I was like, shit. I was like, do you have cuffs on now? Do I need to get a saw to saw off cuffs so we could go to this FHM party? And I went and met him in the bushes at the hospital in Birmingham in the City Road. And then we went to our friend's house that was by there. And then we changed clothes and hid out for a few hours. And we had to go to the FHM party without haircuts, looking quite rusty. And we didn't get paid.
Wow. Thank you for that. A heartwarming story there, Lukeman. We're nearly over for time, so we'll have one more story regarding Black Lives Matter. I did a bit of research about Black Lives Matters, and apparently it originated when it was at the start of an American football match. There was a chess player called Gary Kasparov who went down onto one knee, and apparently that's how it all started.
Colin Kaepernick.
Gary Kasparov, that's the one. So, what's your final? We'll have to keep it short because we've literally got like a minute, maybe two. What's your final story?
All right, I'll keep it short. So that time was a negative police interaction. I'm gonna give you a positive police interaction. Me and my friends had been out drinking, and then we'd been to buy drugs, and then we were going to our other friend's house. My friend who was driving, who was black, he was over the limit severely. We got onto the expressway, and we got pulled over by the police. And it's a car full of black dudes, and it's white police, and they've pulled us over on the expressway, which we thought was strange, and the driver is drunk. There are drugs in the car. And I'm like, shit, well, he's definitely getting arrested. Like, what are we going to do? And I was like, someone needs to be a grown-up and put these drugs up their ass. And then my mate who was driving. I was like, mate, I've been doing all the driving. I'm not putting the drugs up my ass. My mate in the back was like, I've paid for a lot of the alcohol tonight. And I was like, the cop's coming over to the car. And I'm like, fuck it, I'll have to be a grown up. One of us is fucking, give me it. So I've done it. Plugged it. Not full hole, just deep in the cheeks. And they've come and they've got my mate out of the car, who's a black dude, and he's drunk. And I'm thinking, shit, we're on the expressway. They're going to search us all. Are we all going in? He's definitely going in. My mate passed the breathalyzer, stinking of booze, car full of Negroes and drugs. And the police said, have a nice night, lads, and let him come back in the car and let us leave on our mission.
Well, there we go.
So, there are good police interactions.
So what you're saying is the police sometimes let criminals get away with it.
if that's the moral, you want to take them to the table. I think they could see these boys are no threat, and they're just going to go watch a film and have a laugh. We're not gangbangers. We're just having a laugh, the same as the rest. I want the rest of you guys to have a laugh.
Well, I can definitely say that the police have let me get away with quite a few things in the past, but that's due to legal pressure. So it's been lovely chatting to you, Lukeman. It's been an eye-opener learning about people trying to tell you to go home whilst also blockading you into a school. It has. It's been a lovely chat, and hopefully, in another few years, race will be a thing of the past, and I will have black women that will find me attractive.
They'll never cancel us, Mr. Badger. Fuck them.
Yeah, fuck them. Fuck a lot of them. Anyway, say bye-bye to the boys and girls.
Yes.
Bye-bye, everybody.